Well, it's now the middle of August and it's time for another garden update. Here's the thing. I've been away from the garden for about 10 days now, and I have a feeling that I have lost complete, total control. So, along with the garden update, let's see what it looks like when you ignore your garden for 10 days in the middle of growing season. Here we go. And add to that you were barely holding on before you left. Yeah. No surprise, my garden is totally out of control. The weeds have now pretty much taken over. It doesn't take long, and we had a lot of rain this past week. So, see this row? There are supposed to be peppers under there, but now it's just a row of weeds. Here's my okra plants. We had a big windstorm come through, and so some of them got knocked over. I could see that some of my sunflowers down there did that as well. But here's the big thing with okra. When it's in the middle of its growing season, I harvest it every other day, like clockwork, because okra grows really fast, and if you let it grow more than a couple of days, it gets really big, and people don't like big okra. This is my sweet potato jungle. Oh dear. I think I've lost my rows. I think I'm going to see that as a repeated theme. I've mentioned in the past that I really try to protect my pathways so that I have access, and clearly I'm losing that battle. Did you know that sweet potatoes actually put out flowers? I didn't know that. Look how pretty. Oh my goodness. This is my row of acorn squash. Oh dear. I don't even know if there's any squash in there. I am going to have to go digging. Oh dear. This is my row of cantaloupe and watermelon. Well, it looks like I got one that's ripe, possibly overripe at this point. You could tell a cantaloupe is ready to harvest when when it separates really easily from the stem. This one is, oh look, after all that time, no good. Oh well. Oh no. Here are my watermelon plants. I think you have to take my word for it that there are watermelons in here. Oh my goodness. See? Oh, there's one. I did harvest one watermelon before we left. These are sugar babies, and oh, it was delicious. The way you can tell if a watermelon is ready to harvest normally is you go to the little squiggly thing that is directly above it, and if it's brown, it's ready to harvest. And with sugar babies, you add 7 days. This one's pretty brown, so I'm thinking I'm gonna harvest this one today. Yum. The squash bugs clearly found my winter squash patch while I was gone. There are a lot of squash eggs all over the place. I've been smushing some, and I've got a lot more to go. Yuck. Wow, it's a sea of squash plants. So much for my access paths. I look at this and I am totally overwhelmed. It's like lost. I'm not exactly sure how I even get this back, or if I just mow it all down, like let it ride and then just mow it down after the plants die off. Hoo-wee! These spaghetti squash are starting to turn yellow. That looks really good. I will leave these on the vine as long as I can until the stem up here turns totally brown. I figured the more I can let them cure on the vine, the less I have to deal with them. So they will stay. This is my row of Seminole pumpkins. At least I thought that's what they were. However, I had an inkling before I left that some of my plants, I don't know if they crossed or if I just planted, like saved the seeds and mislabeled, because these look an awful lot like butternut squash to me. Either way, they're winter squash and they're yummy. That's what I expect to see from a Seminole pumpkin. Not that. Oh well. Oh my goodness. My beans have been growing while I was gone. Here's another thing, kind of like the okra, is that you have about a 2 to 4 day window with harvesting these yard-long beans, because once they get beyond a couple of days after being full grown, they start to dry out like this. These are too big to eat now. I will leave some of these on the vine and let them go to seed, and I will save these seeds for next year. But a lot of them I'll just cut and drop. Oh my. This used to be my row of Marketmore cucumbers, and clearly they're done. Right before I left, they were starting to show definite signs of downy mildew, and clearly they've gotten taken out. And the cucumber beetles are all over. No more cucumbers for me. Well, look at that. And army worm. Gonna have to go through. I don't know if I can. I'll try and save these guys. See, if you don't keep trellis first. Okay, first of all, bad worms. And this tomato's toast, so I might as well just take it off. But also, with the rope method of trellising, you have to keep trellising up. You keep winding these tomato plants, the vines, up around. Otherwise, they do what this one was doing, and they just fall over, and then they bend. So you got to keep winding them up. And so I've got a bunch of that to do if I'm going to try and save these. I'll just have to decide. They're not looking great, that's for sure. Let's head over to the other side of the garden. Think things are any better over there? This is my milkweed. And look, oh my gosh, there's a monarch butterfly. This is the first one I've seen this year. Yay, a monarch. Okay, back to this side of the garden, and yep, out of control just like the other side. That's all right. Here's my popcorn. When I'm here, I like to try to help it along, to shake it so that these little guys will fall down. Here, looks like this one's probably ready. It's so interesting. Corn is so interesting. So this stuff needs to drop down onto all of these little hairs, and each little hair represents one kernel of corn. Each one needs to get pollinated individually. So when you get a cob that is missing kernels, that's because that little strand did not get pollinated. So interesting. I wonder what tried to get a snack. Look, you can see, oh, this was a good little piece of corn. Looks like they took out this one too. Oh well. Well, this is a little disappointing, although I don't think it's gonna matter. These are my Jerusalem artichokes, and it looks like they all fell over. We had, like I said, a really, really bad storm come through. I'm surprised I don't see more damage, but it looks like these guys got blown over. Here's my loofah. It seems none the worse for wear, and the bees, as always, are loving these flowers. I see I have a whole lot of cherry tomatoes to start harvesting. I don't know if you saw the video where I dug out the squash vine borers from, I don't know, every single one of these yellow squash plants. And surprisingly, it looks like maybe 3 of the plants survived, and they're still starting to produce squash. This one doesn't look terribly good, but I also planted a couple of new plants which are starting to come up. I don't know if they'll have enough time to mature before the end of summer, but I thought I'd give it a go. This is my row of peanuts. They're still flowering just a little bit, and I really need to get some hay or soil around them, or just let it ride like I probably will do. This is my row of butternut squash, and these plants are looking really good. I have high hopes for my winter squash this year. There's an anthill that has reformed. Periodically, I just take a shovel or whatever and just disturb it, and it makes them all angry. But it also takes out some of their eggs, usually, and they have to rebuild. Try and keep them from getting too big, but aside from that, they don't really seem to do much of anything. These are my tromboncino squash plants. They have, I don't know if you remember, they started over in this row, and they have now grown across my pathway to this row. And the ones that are trellised up look pretty good. I didn't do a good enough job making sure I trellised them, so some of them are just flipping over, but you can see here, got some big ones. No really nice long straight ones though. They're so fun to grow. There are carrots in there. I know it. That was kind of, I can't blame this on total neglect for 10 to 14 days. This was neglected long before that. Well, looks like this is all that's left of my Black Beauty zucchini. One enormous club. Here are my sorry looking Amish paste tomatoes. Anything that was close enough to the ground is getting munched on by whatever critters can reach it. The plants up top actually look pretty good. It's been so hot though that they stopped setting fruit for a while, so there aren't a lot of little fruits growing. Maybe if it starts cooling off, I see a couple of new flowers. So they may actually pick up and set a little bit more fruit still before the end of the season. Maybe if I bang them around a little bit, it'll help with the pollination. My bell pepper plants up here have finally started. It looks like they finally established themselves. They're setting fruit now. So I might actually get a few bell peppers by the end of the season. Certainly nothing early this year. But that's okay. Better late than never, right? Okay, last veggie I'll show you for this month's update. These are the leeks that I planted really early on, like in February. And I think, look, I think some of these are kind of ready to harvest. Well, there you have it. That's my August garden tour and update. Clearly, my garden is out of control. However, it's still producing a lot of food. So it might not be the prettiest garden in the world, but man, nothing beats fresh veggies. So I'm gonna see if I can gain control of any of this stuff. And if not, that's okay too. We're heading into the fall. The winter squashes are still doing great. I'll start focusing on those, and it's time to start planting a few things for the winter garden, the fall and winter garden. So that's what I'm gonna do next. I think I'm giving up on the weeds. Oh well, I'm still enjoying the veggies. So until next month, just keep growing. Just one more note for wrap up. I know that my garden is kind of a mess. However, just take a look. This is what I harvested today. All of this is freshly harvested. And it is now at the farm stand. I don't know if you heard that, but nothing. We have a new camera up at the stand, and it is a two-way, and so Brian is enjoying talking over the camera. Bye-bye. All right, guys, it's a few days later, and I'm really glad I didn't throw in the towel. I've been hard at work, and I've been working on cleaning up the pathways and the plants, at least on one half of the garden. So it's looking a little better now. And I have found a few treats too along the way.